Mr. Nelson, I think I understand very well that frogs produce frogs and cows produce cows, and there are no exceptions. And I understand and make real clear to people, no fossil counts. No fossil counts for anything in a court of law, in an honest court of law. When you find a fossil in the ground, all you can prove is it died.
Which of course means that it also lived. It also means that it ate and that it grew to this level of maturity in an environment that would support that.
None of the fossils I have seen, and we got a huge collection of them here, none of them have a date stamped on them.
Which is both another indication that it wasn't created, and is also the reason we need a geologic study of the matrix from which it was extracted, so we can apply a few of the several different overlapping methods in dating these deposits. For example, where I found these was where a river had cut through all of the Cenozoic strata to reveal a Cretaceous beach, where there were literally thousands of shells like this washed up on what was once the shore. Paleoclimatologists can tell a whole lot more about ancient biosystems than you want to admit.
None of them talk.
Yet they tell us so much. These tell us there were cephalopods living inside that were once abundant all over the world a long time ago, but that don't exist anywhere at all anymore.
You put interpretation on them, but your interpretation is not part of the fact.
Nothing I've said so far is interpretation. Everything I've added is part of the fact.
The fact is, this comes from a critter that died. That's the fact. Now, if you want to add more to that, you're welcome to, of course, but that's no longer science.
Part of the science is that your critter was a mammal, though I can't see the fossil well enough to be sure of what type. I can't tell if those are molars or carnassials, but it looks like an artiodactyl, and a relatively recent one at that. Is it? Because therein lies the importance of phylogeny, something you don't know anything at all about, and you refuse to learn.
So, there are no fossils that would count in an honest court of law. Every fossil would be thrown out. You can't say this is intermediate between these two. You don't know that. You don't know if that fossil had any children at all. How could you possibly prove that?
I don't have to. It's irrelevant. If you really understood anything you pretend to, you'd know that it doesn't matter whether that particular individual had any offspring or not, because we're not looking at any direct lineage of individuals. Evolution is a matter of population genetics and comparative morphology. Is that collective species or genus intermediate with some earlier or subsequent forms? Or is it a sister clade of some contemporary form? Are the features of a particular skeleton intermediate between this one and that? Because those are things we can measure to be sure, and that's how we know. And following the scientific method, we can also predict certain measurable variations that should occur in certain lineages in particular clade from a specific range of time and space. And these predictions are consistently fulfilled. Whereas you are protecting and fortifying your incurious ignorance, what you ignore so that you don't have to understand or admit. You don't want to know what you don't want to believe. And keep lying to yourself that way if you must. But intellectually honest people watching either side of this debate will see that that is what you're doing and that it's not what I'm doing.